The Spy Who Loved Me is generally considered to be one of the best installments in the James Bond franchise, while the book it's based on is widely regarded to be Ian Fleming's worst 007 novel. Like many early Bond films, The Spy Who Loved Me takes its name from one of Fleming's original novels. Every James Bond movie based on a book is bound to provoke debate as to which is better. However, the disparity in quality between The Spy Who Loved Me book and its cinematic counterpart is nothing short of glaring. The original The Spy Who Loved Me novel was first published in 1962. It differed wildly in terms of both structure and tone from every other Bond novel and, as a result, was considered a failure. Meanwhile, the 1977 film, which starred Roger Moore as James Bond himself, was a critical and commercial hit. The movie's success can be put down to one key fact: The Spy Who Loved Me completely changed the original Bond novel. The Spy Who Loved Me book is Ian Fleming's weakest James Bond work. The novel garnered overwhelmingly negative reviews. Ian Fleming smoking a cigarette. After penning 8 successful Bond novels, which included popular titles such as Casino Royale and Goldfinger, as well as a collection of short stories, Ian Fleming chose to do something different when it came to his 9th 007 novel, The Spy Who Loved Me. In many ways, this was understandable. Much like the films, the James Bond novels follow a particular formula that sees Bond being sent on a mission, defeating the bad guy, winning the girl, and saving the day. While Fleming's books did provide more wiggle room than the films, they still stuck pretty rigidly to this structure. It makes sense that Fleming would grow tired of writing the same stories and decide to play with the formula. Unfortunately, his attempts to do this with The Spy Who Loved Me ultimately backfired. While the other Bond novels are told in the third person and largely follow Bond's perspective, The Spy Who Loved Me is told in first person from the perspective of a young woman named Viv Michelle. It's also broken into 3 sections, titled Me, Them, and Him. If that wasn't jarring enough, Bond himself doesn't show up until about 2/3 of the way into the novel. Despite these radical changes to the formula, The Spy Who Loved Me's biggest crime is that it's dull. The story only starts to heat up when Bond appears, but by that point, there aren't many pages left. A big part of what held the story back was that its protagonist, Viv, never came across as a fully developed, three-dimensional character. This contributed to the negative reception the book received from critics. How The Spy Who Loved Me book led to a strong James Bond movie adaptation. The film version is considered among the best in the series. Critics weren't the only ones dissatisfied with Fleming's attempts. Fleming himself was seemingly disappointed by The Spy Who Loved Me, so much so that he called for there to be no reprints of the work. He also refused to sell the rights to the book's plot, only its title. This proved to be a good thing for Bond film producers, Harry Saltzman and Albert R. Cubby Broccoli, who essentially had free range to do what they wanted. Other film adaptations of Bond novels changed certain elements of the plot, but The Spy Who Loved Me was able to start almost from scratch.